So, the Declaration of Independence. I'm sure everybody knows this document, but how much do you really know about the document? What was the purpose of the document? The Declaration of Independence was a document declaring independence from Great Britain. Okay, and what the document states, it first states that the Continental Congress at that time, which later became America, American government, is claiming its independence from Great Britain. And then it goes on to list a bunch of reasons why. Now, what it lists are things that it's accusing Great Britain of doing that they don't agree with. So the people that later became America and American government are listing things that Great Britain agrees with or has done that they don't agree with. And they're saying this is the justification for us claiming or declaring our independence from you. You are doing things that we don't agree with, and we want our own government to do our things our way. Remember that. Okay. So there's some very interesting things that are written in the Declaration of Independence, and I'm going to read some of them off to you. But there's a big section, or let's just say accusation, written in the Declaration of Independence, where they accuse the British of doing a particular thing in the original rough draft. Okay, but first let me read some things off that actually made it to the final draft, and we'll talk about them a little bit before I get to the thing that affects black people or African Americans. Okay, hold on. So he has, and this is when they say he, they're talking about King George and Great Britain. King George and Great Britain. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So I'm going to say it again. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for public good. That is, he did not create the best laws for the public. Okay. Is that happening right now? I'm going to let you think on that. Okay. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, 13 colonies, and for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither. I'm going to read that part again. For that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, that would be immigrants, okay, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither. This is basically stopping or refusing to naturalize those who are here already in the States, the foreigners that are here in the States right now, refusing to naturalize them, and also taking steps to discourage immigration rather than encourage immigration. This is what the government that later became the United States government, this is what they accused the British of doing in the Declaration of Independence. That they use it as a justification. Because you're doing this, we don't agree with you and we want our own government. Tell me that that's not happening right now. Tell me that the government that once declared its independence for doing that exact same thing is not turning around and doing that within its own government. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. He has made our judges dependent on his will alone. I'm gonna leave that alone. You know what I'm saying, but I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna move on. For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. This is another accusation of America sending an accusation towards King George. I'm gonna read it again. For protecting them, which is probably his own people, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not going to say names. There is a very powerful person in the United States who actually said out of his mouth, I could kill somebody right there on the street in broad daylight and get away with it. We accuse somebody else of doing that and allowing that, but somebody in this, a very powerful person in this country actually said that he could get away with it just because of who he was. I'm gonna leave that alone. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. This is another accusation of the British. Okay, is that not happening right now? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do this one too. For depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury and for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Now, I could go on and on. If we're not hypocrites, then I don't know what we are. But I'm gonna leave that part alone because honestly, that's not what the video is about. This is a Black History video. This is Black history as it pertains to the Declaration of Independence. So let me get into that. I just thought you should know that because I'm sure none of you have actually found or looked up the Declaration of Independence and tried to read it. So I just helped you out. But anyway, okay. So the Declaration of Independence was actually written by Thomas Jefferson. Now there was a 5-person committee who were assigned to write it and approve it and publish it and sign it and everything. And you know, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Livingston, and Sherman. I think his name was Roger Sherman. It was a 5-person committee. And basically, Thomas Jefferson didn't want to write it at first. He wanted John Adams to write it, but John Adams convinced him that he would be the better choice. So Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, but he wrote several drafts before that final draft was approved. Okay, now, yes, let's just be real. Thomas Jefferson, in many, if not everybody's opinion, is a hypocrite. Why? He spoke out a lot against slavery, but he owned a lot of slaves and had children by slaves. And those descendants of those mixed children between Thomas Jefferson and his slaves are still alive today. They even have a family reunion. So my opinion is that Thomas Jefferson is not a racist, but he is definitely a hypocrite, a big hypocrite. But like I say, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. Now, I'm going to read something that was in a rough draft and made it to the final draft. Here we go. We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal and independent. You heard me, right? That from equal creation they derive rights inherent and inalienable, among which are the preservation of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That is in the Declaration of Independence. That was written by Thomas Jefferson and approved by the rest of the committee to be put in the final draft. Okay. Now, I'm gonna read another part that was in the rough draft, that was not in the final draft. Okay, watch this. This is an accusation of, this is the American government, Continental Congress, accusing King George and the British of doing something as a justification for declaring their independence. Watch this. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. Now, if you haven't figured that out by now, that's slavery. That would the people that have been taken from here and brought to another hemisphere, that would be African American or Africans at the time. This is Thomas Jefferson putting it in a Declaration of Independence, saying that we accuse you of doing this, and because we don't agree with it, just like all the other things we listed in here, we want to declare our independence from you. You're doing something we don't like, we don't agree with, we want to declare our independence. To make it simple, Thomas Jefferson is not only expressing here and there, he's writing in the Declaration of Independence that we don't agree with slavery. Therefore, we want to declare our independence from you. But that section did not make the final draft. It did not get approved by the rest of the committee and put in the final draft. Therefore, you will not see this, what I just read to you, you will not find in the final draft of the Declaration of Independence. Okay? So, what does that kind of tell you? So, I mean, let me just say it like this. You didn't have a problem putting, let me read that again. All men are created equal and independent. You didn't have a problem putting that in the rough draft and in the final draft. All men are created equal and independent. But yet you wouldn't ensure that slavery was abolished. You had a chance right there. But the other people would not approve it. But yet you're saying that all men are created equal. You see the hypocrisy here, right? You see the hypocrisy. Now granted, you wouldn't know that unless you go find the original or the rough draft. So you could read that part, because it's not in the final draft. But it's a lot of hypocrisy. So obviously they wanted slavery, and now you can understand why there are modern day black people, African Americans, however you want to say it, who will not celebrate, or let me say it like this, who do not believe that the 4th of July or that Independence Day pertains to black people. It's not a holiday for black people. This is why they say that. Maybe you can understand. Now me, I celebrated Independence Day. I served 12 years in the military. I'm kind of a patriot. Okay, regardless of how other black people may see this, I'm a patriot when it comes to this country and in the history, whether it be black history, American history. I'm just a patriot like that. I'd go serve again right now if they asked me, and I'm 43 years old. All right, if we had a draft, I'd go again. But anyway, my point is, black people, modern day black people, have a reason to be angry about a lot of stuff. They have a reason to speak out against holidays such as Independence Day. Okay, because for those you don't know, the Declaration of Independence was published and signed by everybody on July 4th. All right, but they have a reason. Now, you may agree, you may disagree. I still celebrate it. I celebrated all my life. I still celebrate it. But let me say this: don't be a African American or black hypocrite by stating the Declaration of Independence. I don't celebrate Independence Day because of the Declaration of Independence. It don't pertain to black people. But yet, I turn around and look out my door and I see you out there popping firecrackers and barbecuing, and taking a day off from work. And all. Either you're gonna celebrate it or you're not. If you don't celebrate it, I hear you. But don't try to be in between. Well, I don't celebrate it, but I'm gonna still pop firecrackers. For what? That would be celebrating. Or I'm gonna still go to the fireworks show down there and wherever. And aren't you kind of celebrating Independence Day? But anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, I hope I educated you on the Declaration of Independence as far as information that you did not know, were not taught in school, and probably would not know otherwise. Okay, all right, because this is important information, and now you know to go Google or wherever the original rough draft of the Declaration of Independence and read that and actually compare it to the final draft. Okay, but you can see that they had a chance right there to abolish slavery before it really became huge. Okay, this is 1776. They had a chance. They chose not to. They wanted slavery. Okay, but that's all I'm gonna say on that. I appreciate you watching. I hope I educated you, and I ask that you continue to watch the videos as they come out. You may have to watch them repeatedly in order to catch things, because I definitely don't want you to miss anything. But thank you for coming out, and I appreciate you watching.